Hey folks, thanks so much for checking into the Neutral Zone Hotel. We are an unapologetically left-leaning podcast that explores hockey at its best and worst. My name's Benjamin. I'm a Montreal Canadiens and Ottawa Charge fan in Ottawa, Ontario. And here to help me make sure your stay is a great one are two of my friends, starting with SJ.
Hello, I am SJ, and my pronouns are they, them, and I am an Alex Carpenter fan.
Accurate. And we've also got Trevor along for the ride.
Hi, everybody. Trevor here. Pronouns are he, him, a Vancouver Canucks, PWHL Vancouver, and momentary Abbotsford Canucks fan. Go you goddamn baby Canucks, go.
Folks, we are going to spend most of this episode talking about the PWHL expansion draft. But before that, we're going to do a little bit of housekeeping. We're going to start by talking briefly on the Stanley Cup Finals. Now, SJ, I know you're not watching a lot of it. Trevor, you either. But I just want to say, how big of a piss baby does Jake Wallman look like right now?
I don't know. Okay, so I didn't see what happened. What did he do?
He punched Matt Tkachuk, and then he squirted water at him on the bench.
Have you seen the clip of like when he was punching Matthew Tkachuk?
No.
There was I don't know who it was. That there was an Oiler holding Matthew Tkachuk like with his arms behind his back while Jake Wallman wailed on his face. So it was Matthew Tkachuk didn't even have a chance to fight back. Yeah. The water on the clip I also saw the clip of him like squirting water from he was on his bench and he was squirting water at the other bench, and Brian Boucher like lost his shit. He was like between the benches doing the broadcast for TNT because like the water was getting on the equipment and on Boucher, like on his suit and stuff, and he was like pounding on the glass at Wallman. Extreme. Honestly, I think the water squirting is extremely funny. It's right up there with like the Panarin glove throw, as far as like ridiculous petty bullshit.
Through you all describing that, all I could think of was if, regardless of Brian Boucher, I get equipment is expensive, but in terms of getting wet, here's me playing the world's tiniest violin. You don't have to be between the benches. You're there for a reason. Like, you're there because you want to be there. Things are going to happen.
Well, I mean, he does have to be between the benches because that's his job. It's his job to broadcast and be the between the benches guy. Yeah.
I think that he was probably more worried about the equipment than anything else.
It's funnier to think about the idea that he was like worried about like his suit or something.
My suit.
That makes it very funny in my mind.
That's true.
But yes, shout out to Brian Boucher for losing his shit.
In terms of punching another player, okay, kind of piss baby. In terms of squirting water, whatever. Who cares? That's
anyway,
not piss baby antics.
He is $10,000 worth of piss baby today. Is my answer to your question. As that is the fine he received.
I mean, for me, that's a lot of piss baby.
It is.
I couldn't afford to be a Jake Wallman sized piss baby.
Well, you're not an NHL player.
Yeah. All right. Otherwise, I think the series has been interesting. 2 really great games and 1 blowout. And I think a couple blowouts in a 7-game series is good because then you can say the series had everything. However, we're in the middle of 2 3-game delays. We're 3-day delays for games, which I find infuriating, but I assume is so that the people with the NHL can extend their time on Florida beaches.
The travel distance is large, and that is causing games to be a little bit more spread out. But yeah, the whole SCF schedule is a little baffling, I think.
I mean, so I've been following the AHL playoffs more than usual for obvious reasons. The Abbotsford Canucks are in the Calder Cup Finals. So Charlotte swept the Eastern Conference Final. Their last game was last Tuesday. Before they finished, Abbotsford and Texas didn't even play Game 4 yet. Like, they had just finished Game 3. And first game of the finals isn't until Friday. Charlotte's got 10 days off.
It is very long.
So
that is that's another long travel distance between Abbotsford and Charlotte. And they don't get, I think they fly commercial in the AHL.
Oh, more than likely.
I think so. Yeah, I'm upset that Laval got swept. I would have hoped they would have put up a better fight. But, I mean, getting to the conference finals is very good. Checkers, John said this on our Discord, it is a thing to have your main team and your farm team be in the finals of your respective leagues. It's really impressive.
It is.
With that said, like, I don't need to repeat myself. We all know where my loyalties lie in this series.
Team.
The other thing I want to touch on before we talk about PWHL is they have announced a few awards this week. Of the NHL, it is 2025 the NHL awards. Let's see. So the Ted Lindsay Award, this is a couple weeks old now, but they spread the awards out, which makes it harder to talk about them all at once.
Yeah.
The Ted Lindsay Award was awarded to Nikita Kucherov, which I thought was really interesting.
Deserved.
He was very good this year. He won the scoring race. He was the Art Ross winner.
I don't think it's necessarily interesting because he doesn't deserve it. I think it's interesting because I strongly expect the writers to go with Leon Draisaitl.
For the Hart?
Yeah.
Let's find out. It's not so unusual for... I mean, the Hart and the Lindsay aren't always the same.
Bill Masterton Memorial Trophy goes to Sean Monahan, presented to him by Meredith Gaudreau.
Everybody cry.
Yeah.
Waterworks.
Yeah, I mean... I had one or two pop up there. It was very touching. Very sweet.
Tough to imagine. Tough to imagine playing the year and doing as well as Monahan did with that. With the death of your best bud on your shoulders, having to go to the same place you worked with them every day. Or no, he never got the chance to play with him. Really.
He signed in Columbus because they wanted to raise their kids together, and then he never got to.
It was so sad.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it was kind of inevitable it'd be Monahan because they vote on the Masterton before the playoffs, and Landeskog hadn't come back yet.
And I think that's right. I think Landeskog, if he had come back, would have maybe made it more of an interesting race.
Yeah.
But obviously it was deserved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then finally, today it was announced that Montreal's Lane Hudson has won the Calder in a walk.
Oh, you're skipping the Selke?
Oh, was the Selke?
Yeah.
Barkov.
Barkov won the Selke and the King Clancy.
See, it's easy enough to skip. That one's boring.
Well, if Barkov's going to win it every year, it's boring.
I mean, it was boring when Bergeron was winning it every year.
Yeah.
Yes, Selke wins. Barkov wins his third. I mean, at this point, you've got to think now he's got a cup. He's got almost the points he needs. You can pretty much pencil Alexander Barkov into the Hockey Hall of Fame.
With 3 Selkies and a cup, I would write it in pen. He's not necessarily going to he's not necessarily going to get in on the first ballot unless he puts up more points, which I mean he will by the end of his career, but he's going to get in.
Yeah, I agree completely.
Maybe he'll actually be properly rated for once.
No. People always complain about whoever's winning large amounts of Selkies being underrated. Jack Adams goes to Spencer Carberry.
Yep. Yeah, I think that one was pretty expected.
Nothing more to say on that. Like, there's been basically everything, all the awards except for maybe Kucherov is like, this was the obvious choice and probably the correct choice.
I mean, I don't think Hudson was necessarily the obvious choice for Calder. I think, but the way the voting came out, he really ran away with it.
I mean, Lane Hudson, Benjamin, you can maybe feel free to correct me on this, but I feel like he was a main part why Montreal took a huge step into making the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not deserved.
The thing that I find really interesting about Hudson is it's really the tale of two players. Before the Four Nations break, he was a very, very good player, especially for his age, offensively, but he was giving everything back defensively, or almost everything. However, after the break, he was still giving a lot, but it was 60% of what he was giving back before. And when you're that type of offensive defenseman, when you have those sorts of seasons where you're putting that much offense down and you're only giving up X amount of it back, those are the seasons that win you Norris trophies. Like that was Erik Karlsson's gig for a long time, right? Mm-hmm. So I think he definitely locked himself in that period of time. I think that if he had played the way he had before, he's a finalist, but I think it is Wolves to lose at that point. But I think Hudson was a dynamic, interesting player in one of hockey's biggest markets, playing under some of the brightest lights. He tied a record that hadn't been touched in over 40 years from the 80s. I don't see how you can't give it to him. Mm-hmm. And he becomes the first Montreal Canadian to win the trophy since Ken Dryden in 1972.
Impressive, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. There is our short laundry list of things to talk about sorted out. We are going to spend the rest of this time talking about the PWHL expansion draft.
Yeah.
Before we do that, if you want to come hang out with us, you can do that on Discord. We are at neutralzonehotel.com/Discord to find our eternal link. We are on Bluesky and Instagram at Neutral Zone Hotel, YouTube as well, /Neutral Zone Hotel. And if you're listening, folks, please take a moment, pull up your podcast player of choice, give us 5 stars or a thumbs up to help more fans find what we have to say. Thanks so much. We really appreciate each and every one of you. All right. So, I think last time we talked, they had just announced the initial 3 protections, but the exclusive signing window was about to begin. So, in the exclusive signing window, let's see here. I have this up. Seattle announced they had signed Hillary Knight to a 1-year deal from Boston, Alex Carpenter to a 1-year deal from New York, Danielle Sterdachny to a 2-year deal from Ottawa, Caleb Barnes to a 3-year deal from Montreal, and Corinne Schroeder 2-year deal from New York. So, SJ, what were you feeling after the signing period?
Thrilled, over the moon, incredibly happy. I think that Megan Turner knocked it out of the park with the signing window. My main feeling was like we might win every game 6-5. There's just incredible offensive firepower in here. Hillary Knight, obviously an American hockey icon. I'm sure they'll give her the C. A great player to start your franchise with, leadership-wise. Not quite. Hopefully she has a good year. So she's not washed yet, hopefully. But it's 1 year. Danielle Sterdachny, she committed to a couple of years. She is kind of was a bit buried in Ottawa. Definitely did not hit her potential there. So I know that she was looking for a new start. Hopefully, I think she's kind of penciled in as like the second line center. And I think she's going to be given every opportunity to break out this year. Hopefully she reaches her potential. Kayla Barnes, I think, is a genuine number 1 D. She's from California. She signed for 3 years, so she really committed to Seattle. I'm super stoked for that. Hopefully she's on the team for a really long time. Carpenter was shocked not to be protected by New York, and I think that it really soured her on them, so she was fine leaving, but she also only wanted a 1-year deal. She's a genuine 1C. We absolutely need that. I'm super excited for Alex Carpenter being on the team, and I'm hoping she loves it here and extends. And then Corinne Schroeder was the goalie that I wanted in expansion. So yeah, absolutely number one goalie. I'm stoked at the way we allocated our assets here.
I think from a signings perspective, there weren't too many surprises.
I was a little surprised that neither team opted to sign a single UFA. No Jesse Compfers, no Hannah Millers, no Teresa Vanashova. They left that on the table, and as a result, I fully expect most of those players to return to their original teams.
Well, I guess we'll see about that. I think there may have been a bit of, let's see what we can get for free before we start offering deals, but who knows?
Well, I mean, nobody in the exclusive signing window was free. You know, those people, they all had deals. They were probably offered raises to come. Otherwise, why leave?
Well, unfortunately, we don't know the answer to that. So I don't think from a perspective of the teams that were being signed from, there was any surprise. Boston, I think it was pretty much assumed when Hillary Knight was protected. I think it was pretty much assumed she was going. Same with Carpenter. You don't protect her, you know she's going to go. Serdachny, I'm not surprised. She's the number 2 pick from last year. As you said, you can argue she was underused. I would say she didn't
live up to expectations.
I would say she didn't earn a spot. She was started at number 2 center for Ottawa and got played down to number 4 wing. Schroeder was absolutely shocking to me when she wasn't protected.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about New York's odd decisions around their protection list now, or?
No, let's do it at the end.
Okay.
Because we're going to go through the draft after this. And yeah, I think Kayla Barnes was one of the best defenders available. I think with both her and Ambrose, it was which one of them is going to sign. And I guess Barnes is younger. She's from the West Coast, and she was willing to commit for 3. And then Montreal got to protect Ambrose, so...
Yeah, with their 4th spot.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, so Vancouver, they were able to sign Sarah Nurse to a 1-year deal, Jennifer Gardner to a 1-year deal, Sophie Jakes to a 3-year deal, Claire Thompson to a 1-year deal, both of those out of Minnesota, and Emmerance Mashmeyer from Ottawa for 2 years. Trevor, how are you feeling?
Pretty ecstatic, maybe not as much as SJ, because I think there's a couple more question marks with Vancouver's roster. First and foremost, starting with Claire Thompson, because it is, I feel, pretty widely known that she's basically going to be done after this season, or at least next season, because she wants to finish up medical school. And as well, there's going to be a slight question mark, I guess, around Emmerance Mashmeyer, because she went down, what was it, a torn ACL?
I don't remember what the exact injury was. It was something in a leg.
Yeah. Not something you want to hear, especially when it comes to a goaltender. But considering what her form was the past couple of years beforehand, I hope that she can, find that form again and be a solid rock in net. And, of course, having followed Ottawa fairly closely for the past couple seasons, I am very excited to have her. Sophie Jakes is great, young defender who's going to be a solid number 1, kind of similar to Kayla Barnes. Sarah Nurse was very surprising to me that she signed, but I'm not going to complain.
Yeah, same.
While her production was down after from last season compared to the first, she gives a lot of name recognition to the team. And Jennifer Gardner, I'm just ecstatic for obvious reasons. Like, that's hometown girl. That's something that you build around. Like, that's something you market.
So how do you feel about no Hannah Murray?
Hannah Miller? I mean,
I would not be surprised I would not be surprised if there's a handshake deal there.
Like,
I mean, and that might be it. Maybe that's why they didn't sign any UFAs. There could be handshake deals.
yeah. Like, as SJ pointed out, they're surprised that no UFA is being signed. I was also surprised. And I think that just shows what our priorities were when we did our mock draft compared to the actual priorities of the GMs. Because, maybe you want to build your rosters as they can now, and then you worry about who's going to be available then, rather than letting the teams have their current players. Because right now, as it stands, all 8 teams are going to be scrambling to sign a whole lot of UFAs. So why take yourself out of the running for some of those, and some of the picks you can make? But,
so there's a signing window for UFAs opening next Monday on the 16th. So by the time we record again, I think we're going to have some answers around UFAs.
Yeah. Shout outs, by the way, to the PWHL for scheduling all your stuff just before we record. We appreciate it.
Yeah, it's handy. It's handy.
But
all right.
No, I'm excited for this roster. Seattle looks like they, at least from the first 5 picks, it looks like they built offense down, whereas Vancouver, I feel like, went blue line up, and I got no complaints with that.
I feel like the only thing that really shocked me was the lack of term given out. And again, you have to assume that's mostly on the players' end. Both teams gave out, I think, the exact same amount of term in the end. 1-3, 1-2, 3-1s.
I think so, yeah.
Of Seattle's 12 players right now, 7 of them are on 1-year contracts, and 1 is an RFA and doesn't have a contract yet. So unless Seattle manages to extend some of those players, this is not next year's team.
And I mean, that's fairly true around the league.
Yep.
There's a lot of players on RFA or one-year deals. So
Yep.
I think we just kind of have to accept that
This league,
that's the reality.
This league is so close. It is just an inch away from being a full free agency league. Which I think that people forget that when during this whole expansion draft process is like one of the reasons that all of those first round picks had to go was that so many of the original teams were UFAs and couldn't be protected and couldn't be selected. So it's like, who else are they going to pick?
Yeah, exactly.
How the league is currently set up, it's when you really have to focus to the logo on the front and not the names on the back. Like, you kind of have to have blinders when it comes to that.
Yeah, people are going to move around.
I completely agree. So following the expansion or the signing period, 4 teams were able to issue their 4th protection slot. So Minnesota was able to. They spent theirs on Britta Curl.
Ugh. Hey, you know what? Shout outs to Minnesota for making it so we didn't have to cheer for her ever.
That's right. I was actually thrilled they protected Britta Curl because it meant that they exposed players that we might actually want on our teams.
Well, and we'll get into that later.
It prevented my GM from making a decision that I was going to be mad about.
Oh, 100%. Like, if Vancouver had selected an SJ, I feel like you would have done the same thing if Seattle selected her. Doesn't matter if she plays for our team. We're going to boo the ever-loving hell out of her.
Well, I'm just glad it really didn't come to that. So,
yeah.
Stay in Minnesota, Britta.
Montreal was able to protect Aaron Ambrose, which I think was the obvious solution there.
Yep.
New York spent their additional protection slot on Maya Nealon Pearson. And Ottawa spent theirs on Gabby Hughes, which meant that I went 4 for 4.
Well done.
Yay me.
Pat yourself on the back there.
You're really in Mike's head.
There you go.
It's not hard, I don't think. The biggest surprise there, I think, was Maya Nealon Pearson.
I was very surprised to see New York triple down on protecting a blue line that gave up by far the most 5v5 goals in the league last year.
I don't know if it was necessarily Nyland Person being a surprise as much as it was New York going for 3 defenders.
Yes, exactly. I am not going to quibble about the individuals involved, and they're all good players. It's just the way they chose to allocate those protection slots and the fact that they simply allowed 2/3 of their first line to walk out the door. The only line that scored last year.
Yeah. Seems extremely weird to me. This is where you can say what you wanted to say, I think, about.
No, that's what I wanted to say. Pascal Dou, I think, might be a bad GM. He has not impressed me. He hasn't impressed me with his coaching decisions, with his decisions in hiring coaches. I want to take us back 2 years to when the rosters were in the first year of the PWHL, when the rosters, the entry draft occurred, the rosters were set, and people were comparing these teams before a game had been played. What I heard, and I didn't know anything about these players yet, really didn't know anything about women's hockey. I'm not sure. I'm not convinced I do it still. But what people said was that New York had a great roster on paper, and they should be very good in comparison to the rest of the teams. And then they finished dead last 2 years in a row. That is concerning. Like, I don't think they had a bad roster, but they could not put it together in the last 2 years. They never got scoring out of their depth. Abby Rock has been a complete dud for them. I am sorry, Callie. She wouldn't be a complete dud if they moved the team to Detroit, I assure you. But in New York, that's the issue. And then the whole thing with the moving the team splitting time between UBS and Connecticut in year one, which absolutely didn't work. Then moving it to New Jersey and Prudential Center in year two. I mean, that should have been a better situation for them, but there were games that they were drawing 700 people to during weekdays. Like, they're clearly not marketing the team well. The business side, I don't see it. Like, there's no way they're making money on each individual game. They've got to be spending more to rent the venue than they're taking They've recommitted to the Prudential Center for next season. And if you're going to stay in New York, I think that's the right choice. Mm-hmm. You got to try to build some velocity by being in one place for more than a year. But I mean, I don't know how long the New York experiment can last. I think that they need to at least try to hire somebody who knows what they're doing, in either somebody who's going to take over on the business side and knows how to market the team in New York, or replace Dau with somebody who can both build a better team, a team that is going to click, and also market the team better in New York. So, like, there's just no excuse in a dense metro like that loves hockey to only draw 700 people to a Tuesday game. But like this was the issue with the Riveters too. The Riveters couldn't find a place to play. They couldn't find people to show up when they did have a place to play, and they ended up playing in a mall. And that's with like the best branding in the PHF. So it's tough to not see that the issue might just be New York. But I do think there's a chance for them to build some momentum. Mm-hmm. They're going to have the first overall pick again this year, almost certainly. Oh, yes, they will. They've already declared that. Yeah, I think they declared that. Yes. It's the only thing we know about the entry draft so far. Yeah, well, Daniel Marmer said today that the PWHL is assessing the expansion draft and will make decisions on where the teams show up in the entry draft as a result. So obviously, we'll know within 2 weeks from today when I'll be at the entry draft. Mm-hmm. I am fully preparing for Minnesota to bring Britta Curl to announce a pick so we can boo the shit out of her, because I think they like it. I think it's like I think she has a humiliation kink. Stop. Come on. Is this where I say I fully expect that what they will end up assessing is that Vancouver and Seattle should pick 7th and 8th? How many teams are there? 6?
There's 8 now.
8? I cannot count to 8. Yeah. I don't know in what order though.
I mean, I would assume, and we'll get into this. Vancouver won the ball off. Okay, so let's get to the actual expansion draft.
Let's talk about the broadcast.
Let's talk about the broadcast. Okay, so
I would like to
hosted.
I would like to shout out Mike on the Sound of Hockey Discord, who said it had incredible public television vibes. I think you really captured it.
I'm going to say the same thing I said to you when you sent me that, which is they could have gotten Mike Myers and Dana Carvey to play Wayne and Garth, and it would have been almost exactly the same.
Party on. Yeah.
Party on.
Like, full respect to Julia and Tessa, but you can tell that they are a little out of their element.
I mean, actually, I think that is Tessa's element. She has done a ton of live broadcasting in a studio setting. What she wasn't getting was very much support at all from her producer. I think that the people producing that broadcast had no idea what they were doing. And Julia was very nervous. She loosened up as things kind of went along, and she was better as they went. But the production help was not there for them.
Julia Tacciari came to prominence as a YouTuber. She was with Bar Down for quite a while.
She also did do work with TSN. Like, she did like arena hosting for some OHL teams as well for TSN broadcast. So she's got some experience with this.
But that's through Bar Down on the TSN mantle, right? Like, TSN owns Bar Down.
Yeah.
So, and then a lot of those guys double host, which is why occasionally I see Jesse Pollock at a hockey game.
Unfortunately.
And I have to resist the temptation to strike him square in his fucking Zionist mouth. Anyway.
I don't know who this person is, but let's move on.
You're better off not.
He is one of the most annoying hockey YouTubers I've ever seen.
Okay.
And that's before the Zionism broke. Julie was very nervous, and Tessa was making mistakes. And a lot of that, I think, is not getting the right information from the producer. And she even kind of called her producer out at one point, which I thought was very funny. But I want to talk about how they selected who went first. So Vancouver won the right to go first. But for those of you who didn't see it live, the process was a plastic cube
ball.
With a hole
it was
in the top.
Ball. The clear plastic box.
They had a clear plastic cube. They taped some like purple paper to the backside so you couldn't see which ball it was. And they took 2 balls, one of which had the Seattle mark, one of which had the Vancouver mark. They threw it in, and they just picked this thing up and swirled it around like I was mixing a drink.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
When I think about the solemnness with which the NHL draft lottery was, because I enjoyed the NHL draft lottery. I enjoyed how very like arcane and orchestrated it was with like all the lawyers and the guy from the company and
the accountant.
The accountant and all that shit. I thought it was great. I mean, but this was just.
I'm mad I missed it, honestly.
But this was, like you said, it's public access. It's so amateur hour.
Yeah.
And
I was laughing.
Little purple balls.
Yeah. Well,
I expected a coin flip or like some kind of a wheel.
I should have done the wheel. Like, steal a page from our book here. Come on.
I laughed so hard. It was so good. It was just so silly. It felt very amateur hour.
In hindsight, I kind of wish we'd done like a live react recording, because we would have busted a gut laughing for like a solid like 3 minutes over that.
That's okay. We can just kind of remember it.
Yeah.
If there is any demand for watch along parties for this stuff, let us know. We can set it up.
Yeah.
You can come watch us react to this stuff. It's perfectly fine. So yeah, there was a myriad of errors, not understanding what team was next, not understand. At one point, Tessa spoke for multiple minutes about picking somebody from Toronto after Toronto had their 4 players picked.
Yeah, she really super wanted Seattle to take like a backup goalie to take Reagan Kirk, but we were all sitting there like they can't take.
Nope.
They have to take someone from Boston. They have to. It's like that's the rule. Yeah. And then her producer like very belatedly being like, "Oh, actually, they have to take somebody from Boston." Yeah, it was rough.
Which, to be fair, she did kind of roll with it a bit afterwards because she's like, "Oh, I've just been informed." Yeah,
she's a pro.
But it really, I'm sure she was not happy about that, though.
I can't imagine that she would want to watch that broadcast back.
No,
it was pretty rough.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to call out was they decided to do a snake draft, which really took me by surprise. And because like doing a snake draft with 2 teams is like weird. But basically what it meant was that after the first pick, which Vancouver got, every team chose twice in a row. Yep. I do think that probably cut down on the time. And that may have been a consideration. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. And you could absolutely tell they were doing... The only thing that they didn't do live was the selecting the first overall pick was the plastic cube thing. They called out that they had recorded that earlier that day, which is fine. Everything else you could tell it was live. They were scumming for time for all they were worth. And then we got the corner video from the quote unquote war rooms for each team, which was just like the tiniest little conference room with like 3 people with laptops crammed into it, each one of them. Very funny. It looked like someplace I worked. I can only they were clearly in whatever the same conference hotel was.
Oh yeah, easily. Well, especially because they did the interviews afterwards. But sorry, you go ahead, Benjamin.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was very funny that they had to leave the room to do their pick because they had like a podium set up with the backgrounds in another room.
Yes.
So they would occasionally cut back and you'd be like, oh, the GM's gone. She must be about to make the pick. I thought that was very, because
they did
funny.
have a moment like, oh, she's not there. Is she making a pick? Maybe she's in the bathroom. But
yeah, it was bad. The broadcast was rough. And again, I don't think for a league that has done so much and made so much of it look so good.
I mean, you can tell the stuff that TSN produces for them, I think. And that TSN was not producing that broadcast for them. They were doing that on their own without the expertise that they needed to make it look professional.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if they need to flop on this one to make future ones be better, then so be it.
They clearly did not want to spend the money on it. And you know what?
Yeah.
Fine.
Oh, no, it's good. I still enjoyed it. I thought it was funny.
It was incredibly funny. The fact is, the actual game broadcasts look great. They do a great job on them. And at the end of the day, that's what we care about.
Yeah. I expect the expansion draft, the entry draft will look pretty similar.
Yeah, well, I mean, I definitely go back to, the draft last year as well. At least that is more... I think those are more televisable because there's an audience. And that brings a lot of... Just having people in the room brings so much life.
I'm going to be sitting right up front at the stage. It's going to be, not at the stage itself because all the players are on the main floor and then we're on the balcony, but I have seats at the front of the balcony, so it's going to be interesting.
Everybody look for the guy in the heavy metal shirt at the front of the audience.
I'll be wearing my Charge jersey.
Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Let's actually talk about the picks. Let's get through this so that John doesn't kill us because we have a long episode. So, Vancouver won the right to go first and began by selecting from Ottawa Charge, Ashton Bell. Trevor, your response.
jumped out of my chair. I popped off. I was very excited. Again, Ottawa has been my main team for the last couple of years, so there's always a little bit of bias there. But Ashton Bell, I thought, had a really good playoff and proved herself, especially in this past season. So was thrilled to have her come out here. With that said, sorry, Benjamin.
No, it was a risk leaving her unprotected. The hope, I think, was that her salary would protect her, but Vancouver and Seattle both made the decision to acquire players that had large salaries and maximize the value of this draft, and that was their right. So, well done on their part. I'm going to miss her. You're going to love her. Seattle got the next 2 picks and selected from the Charge, Aneta Terlova, and from the Fleet, Hannah Bilka. SJ.
So I was initially quite surprised that they picked Terlova with that high in the draft. I think she was a great value pick, though, and they did need to pick more defenders when coming out of their signing window. So it in retro, it's like looking back, it's like, okay, yeah, sure. They wanted to start to build out their top 4. So I think the expectation is that Terlova will play on the top pair with Barnes. And if that's what they identified, then awesome.
Bilka,
I fully expected Bilka to go first overall, and I was thrilled that she was still on the board for Seattle after Vancouver picked. So really, really great. She's got 2 years on her contract. She's not on an $80K contract, so she's making something less than that. So, which means, it's probably not nothing, but it's a more mid-range contract, and we need those. So and she is a great player. She was a first round pick last year. There were a lot of rumors that Seattle talked to her extensively during the signing window, and they may have made a pitch to sign her, but maybe they were like, we'll just take her in the expansion draft. So, very pleased with this. She can play with her old friend Hillary Knight, and she can play with Alex Carpenter. She's going to be probably our top line left wing.
I do think it's also very interesting to note that Ottawa had all 4 of their picks taken almost immediately. Like, Toronto didn't even have a protection there. Boston got the protection technically after the Ottawa 4th pick. And even towards deeper and arguably more skilled rosters. Like, I was very surprised that Ottawa was done after the first 2 picks, but Benjamin, as a Charge fan, were you kind of happy to be like, all right, we're done. I don't have to worry about who else is going after Terlova was picked?
I was definitely shocked when they took Terlova. I thought for sure it was going to be Markowski. And we were going to miss her, but Terlova, I think, is the more established defender, and she has the ability to play on a top pair in this league, especially with the talent being diluted. So you're going to love her. I think she plays with a lot of grit. She plays with a lot of heart. She's a mom for the team. And you need all that stuff. So
how old is she? She's in her late 20s.
Yeah, I think she's 30.
Well, I can look it up.
Hold on, I can find this out. Right?
She is almost 30, 29 and a half.
Yeah, she turns 30 in January, according to her hockey card.
Yeah. So, nice established player. And we can, we need to break up all of the Canadians and Americans with a Czech player.
I don't agree. But other than that, I was like, yeah, you're right, Trevor. It was like, okay, it's done. I don't have to worry anymore. I know what the damage is.
Yeah. And nobody is tearing Jenner out of Ottawa, so.
She would have retired. There's no doubt in my mind. She would have just been like,
yeah, I think we were.
Fuck you. I'm retiring from professional hockey.
Yeah, I think I said it in the Discord, but I'm pretty sure there was an unspoken thing to just say, no, she's off limits. We're not touching her.
If you took Jenner, she would have retired, and then she would have skated as a civilian with the Charge until the Olympics, right? And then she just would have called it a career, because I'm pretty sure this is her last year.
Yeah.
At which point we can put her number up in the rafters and call it a day. Like, she's amazing.
Oh, do you think they're going to retire her number?
No, but I don't think they'll give it out for a while.
Okay, fair enough.
I think that the only number this league is going to retire anytime soon is 29 in Montreal.
Yep.
Well, they might retire Schofield's.
Yeah, with 2 championships, I think that might honestly, she's already built up the resume that, usually gets your jersey retired in the NHL, so.
I think the Frost will retire Coin Schofield's.
Fine. All right. We should go a little bit quicker because John stuff. All right, Vancouver. They pick Brooke McQuigg from the Frost and Abby Barine from the Victoire.
Very
Brutal.
stoked on McQuigg. McQuigg seemed, from what I saw during the playoffs, she seemed really good. Down for that. Barine was out of nowhere for me. It's been well established, I thought, that she was already a surprise choice to go to Montreal, considering she was doing her schooling in Minnesota and was trying to get it transferred over. To have that taken now over by another team, just she's a good player.
Well, the reason she got picked, she was there to be picked by Montreal, was the fact that the Frost picked Curl over her. The expectation going into that draft was that they would take Abby Barine with their second round pick. And then they did not do that. They took Curl. And Abby Barine was still on the board. And Montreal said, give me a piece of that. And I mean, to give Montreal some credit, they did work hard to help her transfer her credits and find a place for her. And they signed her to a 3-year contract. So I think her expectation at that point was that she was safe. She would have a good place to finish her degree, and she would be in a good situation. But she was never going to get a protection slot on that team. They just couldn't afford to do it, which made her vulnerable.
I just now hope that what Montreal did to help her out with her schooling, that Vancouver's willing to do the same thing, because that's a lot of chaos to be putting on hold for that.
Yeah, I kind of hope maybe they just trade her back.
That too.
For something. I don't know if something can... it just really sucks for her. But she's a great player.
I think Brooke McQuigg was a good value type pick. I think she'll give you a good service. Abby Barine, I feel for, like you said. Seattle. This is I think where I went, oh man, Seattle is going to score so many goals. Seattle gets Jesse Eldridge and Julia Gosling. Eldridge from the Sirens. Shocking to me that Eldridge was exposed.
Yeah.
And Gosling, of course, from the Scepters, where she was their first round pick last year.
Yes. So I fully expected Eldridge to get a protection slot in their fourth slot. The fact that she wasn't, yikes.
Yep.
What a great, she does make a pretty penny. Seattle is spending some money here. But I am psyched for this. The fact that Vancouver decided that they were going to start with build from their blue line. Between Jakes, Thompson, and Bell kind of leading their blue line, that meant that there were some extraordinarily strong forwards on the board for Megan Carter. So I think Carter was like, well, this is a market. This is an inefficiency. I have to take advantage of this. It does mean that, relatively speaking, yes, Seattle has the weaker blue line on paper right now than Vancouver, but holy heck, we've got goal scoring coming at our butts. So, if we win every game 6-5, I'm thrilled with that.
So I did do a quick little bit of math before we got to this point, because I wanted to bring it up right here. Between Alex Carpenter and Jesse Eldridge, Seattle has now acquired 20 of New York's 71 goals from last season.
Jesus Christ. Oh, that's brutal.
Yeah.
Sarah,
Yeah.
okay. And aside from Fillier, I'm pretty sure it was only 3 players on the Sirens last season scored 20 or more points. Yeah. Carpenter with 20, Aldridge with 24, Fillier, of course, 29. After that, it is dismal.
And who was assisting on those Fillier goals? It was Eldridge and Carpenter.
Yeah. Well, Eldridge for sure. Carpenter had a bit of a Cy Young year, but yeah, no, it's.
Oh no! Don't threaten SJ with a good time.
Oh, I know. Like, I think even that next round, I said someone's going to pick Eldridge because I thought it was Vancouver, and I wanted Vancouver to take it. And as soon as she didn't go, I'm like, okay, she's got to go to Seattle. Like, there's no way you leave Eldridge alone right at this point.
Yeah,
she has
absolutely.
to go. Like, tied for 5th in league scoring last year. She's the second. She's the highest from the expansion draft and second highest one who swapped teams in this whole like expansion right now. So like you had to pick her.
And with Gosling, definitely more of a value pick. So Seattle did end up taking 4 of the 6 first round picks from last season. They're not all on huge contracts. So you got to,
because there's no money for them.
Yeah, because there was no money for them. It's true.
Yeah, so Gosling didn't have the best year. I think that it's kind of similar to Serdachny. I expect to see, just as you age, the league is not... There's a difference between the NCAA and the PWHL in terms of quality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a big jump.
I think a lot of the players who didn't necessarily make that jump in year 1, I think they are going to have a good chance in year 2, and that includes Serdachny. And I think that's why Seattle's gambling on Serdachny and Gosling, but getting most of the party from New York together, I think, is a good backup. All right, let's move to Izzy Daniel and Gabby Rosenthal from Toronto and New York. Go to Vancouver.
Decent depth, I guess. I didn't have much to think on that. Like, I will admit, as soon as I saw Gabby Rosenthal, I actually had to go to Google and be like, okay, who is this?
Yeah, I don't really know anything about Rosenthal either, but Izzy Daniel is a good pickup. She did win a Patty Kazmaier award. I think that this is a player that can really grow with the franchise.
I think Gabby Rosenthal is a perfectly fine bottom 6 player. Izzy Daniels, middle 6 with maybe a little bit more upside.
Yep.
Seattle shores up their defense with Anna Wilgren from Montreal and Megan Carter from the Scepters. SJ.
Yeah, great value picks. Great. We're going to have a pretty decent defense, I think, out of this. So very happy. Wilgren does need a contract.
I really did like Wilgren's game this year, so I think you're going to enjoy her.
Yeah, I think she was a noticeable player this year.
And Carter was very good in her role. Mm-hmm. So again, probably doesn't have top pair upside, but I think you're going to get some good work out of her. Denisa Kruzova and Sydney Bard. Trevor.
Maybe not the 4th liner from Minnesota I would have liked, but I'll take it. She was very good in the playoffs, perfectly adequate bottom 6 player. Yeah, nothing wrong there. I should also point out that because of this, if you subscribe to the idea of rings in the room, this means that Seattle got a whole whopping 0 and Vancouver got all of them because all 4 Minnesota picks were made by Vancouver in this expansion.
It's true. We got some medals, though.
That's true.
Yeah. I mean, the last 2 picks, Sydney Bard to Vancouver and Emily Brown to Seattle, are kind of depth of defense. And at that point, the pickings were slim. Unless you wanted to take a big contract. And they had to be the fleet. They had to take from the fleet.
Yeah. And not to mention, too, it's not like you're trying to build, like, 6 top, like, or 3 top pairs. No. You obviously have your top pair, but you need a second pair, you need a third pair, you need to fill that out and then worry about it later on. So I'm fine with it. What I found very interesting too, because we talked about how Seattle seemed to build from the forward down and Vancouver defense up. At the end of the day, Vancouver actually took more forwards and Seattle took more defenders.
Yeah, but it was a quality difference.
100%. It's going to be very interesting, actually, to watch those teams match up now in person. So
yeah,
it'll be fun.
Benjamin, who are you surprised to see stay with their original teams? Who didn't move?
Great question. Grace Zumwinkle was the biggest shocker for me.
Yeah.
I think that it was a choice between her or Eldridge. And since you kind of already had Carpenter, you want to get the band back together?
Yeah, it made a lot of sense. Yeah, you couldn't. There was no way you could afford both. I agree.
Yeah, I think at that point too. I think for both teams they were probably priced out of Zumwinkle at that point. But
Montreal, it's tough. I mean, Lena Youngblom is the only player I think that they could have afforded to take. Dara Grigg is on RFA, and Amanda Boulier is 32 years old. And she's about that tall, 5 feet even.
There's nothing wrong with being 5 feet tall.
There isn't, but it does make maybe being in a professional hockey league a slight bit challenging, SJ. But they were out of possible players. Sirens, I think we've already talked about how they were looted. No surprises there if you leave your biggest stuff.
Do you know how tall Kayla Barnes is? 5'2".
Wow.
Emma Malte, famously 5'2".
Tiny.
It's kind of the same with Ottawa. Like I said, I was somewhat expecting Stephanie Markowski to go because she has a personal connection with
Danielle Serdachny. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you know how tall Hillary Knight is?
I do not.
5'11". She's a giant.
It's massive.
She would dwarf me.
I would say that from Toronto, the one I was surprised about was Allie Monroe.
Yeah.
And again, like Reagan Kirk and Kaylee Osborne, I think would be 2 second goaltenders, but they pretty clearly seem to believe they can get goaltenders in UFAs. So
I mean, here's the thing. I think the entry draft is coming. There are probably good goalies in the entry draft. There are always far, far more goalies that submit their names to be drafted than actually get drafted. And then those people who don't get drafted can be invited to camp. And I think the way to pick a backup goalie when you already have a bona fide number one is to invite some people to camp and see who sticks. Tessa.
I'm gonna be seeing the selection, the draft order pick lottery in my dreams for a while. It was so funny. All right. Yeah, so I think final words. SJ, how are you feeling about Seattle? Do you think they've got a chance?
I think they look great. I fully expect them to contend next year. Because if they don't, people are not going to resign, and then that would really stink. So I think here's what I'm going to say about PWHL Seattle. They're going to be a lot better than the Kraken are next year.
Yeah.
I should have asked you second so we could end on that, but unfortunately I'm dumb. Trevor, how do you feel about the Vancouver franchise?
I get to watch a Vancouver team who finally picked first for something ever and also has the team built around defense for once. It's going to be mind-blowing how much better this is going to be.
Excellent.
I think
give me my season tickets. I want in. I've got multiple friends who are like messaging me being like, hey, do we want to go to games? And I'm like, yeah, I guess he's got potentially season tickets. Wink, 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 wink. So
I mean, Trevor, you're looking for what, 2 seats?
Yeah.
If it's anything close to what they're charging in Ottawa, you could probably get them for like $400 a season. Like my buddy Phil just got tickets in very close to me, and he's paying $392.
Awesome. Yeah, it's
Canadian?
Yeah,
Canadian.
Especially too because like I remember you gave Phil some tickets. I think it was like the 8-2 game earlier this year, and then he went with you to all the playoff games. So I'm glad that he like was all in to like support the team fully in that regard.
Phil's daughter is like 10, 11. Mm-hmm. So I gave them my tickets both seasons for the game around her birthday. Mm. And it just so happened to be that one.
Yeah.
And they love them anyway. They were going to a couple games this year with friends. You get a couple bucks off as a season ticket holder, so I hooked them up. And then the playoffs, I was like, do you want to go to the playoffs? And he's like, I don't know, how much is it? And I'm like, oh, well, if they play all 6 games possible, it's like $400. He's like, per seat. He's like, oh, that's nothing. So obviously we only did the 3 games, so it wasn't even close to that in terms of money. But we did the 4 games, I guess, because we did 1 and 2. Yeah, but like it wasn't that much money, and that sold them. They're like, yeah, we're getting tickets for next year.
Yeah. Also, yeah, shout outs to Phil. I remember him, meeting him at Hockey Week in Canada V1. Great dude.
Yeah, good fella. All right. So with that in the bag, I just want to say, if they do this again next year, I'm really curious to see how the rules change.
There are going to be even more UFAs next year. I don't know if they can use the same format again, just because there are going to be so few signed players on every team. Like, and the players that are signed will probably be of lesser quality.
That kind of makes me wonder if they're going to wait another year before they do this. Like, wait for free agents to sign in for kind of contract lengths to kind of settle before they do another expansion. But
I don't know. I don't know if contract lengths are going to settle in this CBA.
Yeah, I don't know either. I do know we need to bring this to an end.
Oh, sorry. Before we close it, I do have one more quick thing to add for the end. Shoutouts as well to the PWHL subreddit for letting our mock draft be posted there. We appreciate it. It became our most listened to episode by a mile. So thank you so much for letting us do that.
And if you are new here and you showed up from the PWHL subreddit, thank you for giving us a listen. We really do appreciate it. And folks, thank you so much for checking into the Neutral Zone Hotel. We have been your hotel-based provider of hockey conversation. You can visit us at neutralzonehotel.com, neutralzonehotel.com/Discord to join our Discord. We are on Instagram, Bluesky, and YouTube at Neutral Zone Hotel. Take a moment, thumbs up, 5 stars, smash like buttons, whatever it is that you need to do to show that you had a great time today at our establishment. Folks, as always, thank you to our friend Emily Mowbray for designing the logo. We will catch you next time. Take care.